We're talking about the hottest books in the world, and low-key, this is looking more like a buyer's list. Let's get into it. What's good, comic fam? If you got the cash, it may be the time to start breaking it out because the hottest books in the world are getting so damn affordable that we have some newcomers on the list, and you need to stay tuned to the very end because we have our Q3 rankings of the hottest books in the cosmos.
That's right, we're going to go over the Q3 rankings July through September, but before we do, make sure you like this video, make sure you're subscribed, and although number 10 isn't a new book to the list, it's still pretty affordable and low grade. We're talking Iron Man number 1, the first solo titled series from Tony Stark.
We have an origin issue, and the 2.0 is up 10%, selling for $325. The 6.0 is doing the same at $800, and the 8.5 is selling for $2,025. That's up 7%, and it makes sense because this book is tough and high grade, and it is down since its heights.
This is one of those books that doesn't really need any outside attention for collectors to stay interested. I mean, we have been hearing rumors of a soft reboot post Secret Wars. There have been rumors of Tom Cruise portraying superior Iron Man, but I think collectors are just jumping in on it now because it's so affordable.
The 9.2 sold for $3,000 back in July. You would think that there would be a stark difference in one grade point lower, but this past week, we saw a $2,800 sale for a 9.0. Only a $200 difference for that one grade point. That makes me believe that this book is only going to get so low before members say to hell with it, I gotta buy it.
And there's a few books on this list that meet that criteria. That's why we're calling it a buyer's list. Number 9 is not really on the buyer's list, but it's fun to talk about nevertheless. We got X-Men number 1, the first one from 1963.
Well, I'll correct you here, Jem, because if you have over $10,000 right now, this may be the time to buy because other members are doing it. Take a look at this 4.0, selling for $12,000. That's up 3%. The 6.0 sold for $21,250. That's up 6%, but keep in mind, this book back in 2019 was a $10,000 book. Then you fast forward to 2021, it hit $46,000. So it's 50% down. And take a look at this 8.5, selling for a monster $58,880. That's up 1%. But the heights in 2021 were $158,000. This book is down $100,000. And people spending over $50K on a comic book aren't doing it lightly. They think the book has hit a rock bottom, and that's why they're throwing the money down.
It looks like we have some course correction from the comic boom, but this is still a blue chip Marvel key, and we've yet to see what the MCU is going to do with this property, so still a lot of potential in the mutants.
I need your support, comic fam. 1 per box.
It's gonna be a spooky month.
The October Mystery Mail Call. I have American Psycho, Christian Bale photo cover that's going out to every single member. And on top of that, I've teamed up with Bad Omens, Concrete Jungle number 1, Dan Quintana. We have 2 different versions of this glorious cover featuring Noah, the lead singer. And every box gets one or the other. ComicTom101.com. Hit the link in the description. We have a monthly membership option that's cheaper. Or if you want to just try us out for the first time ever, a one-time purchase option. International is officially open, and we need your support. It's the best deal in comics.
Wouldn't you love to wake up, open your front door, and see a Comic Tom package outside every month? Make sure to sign up for the mail call as we dive into number 8 on the list. We've only talked about it one time this year, and that was 6 weeks ago. We're talking Watchmen 1, baby.
One of the most important books of all time. I have a Rorschach tattoo for good reason. It changed the course of comic writing forever. And we chatted about this book last at San Diego Comic-Con when we found out there was going to be an accurate retelling of Watchmen again via animation that would come out sometime in 2024. But because of the writers and actors strike, we've heard no news. But the book is so damn affordable that it's ranking at number 8 on our list this week.
The 9.2 selling for $122, up 49% from its 12-month average. The 9.4 is up 95%, and the 9.6 selling for $185 can't keep up with the 9.4, but still 13% above average.
9.8 hit heights of over $1,300 during 2021. The last GPA sale shows a 9.8 selling for $662, probably at auction. And the high sale this past week was recorded at $725 for an increase of 11%. At best, the lows this book, I believe, in our market will hit $500 before every single member decides now is the time to buy a 9.8 Watchmen number 1. The prices will only get so low, and I think we're beginning to see it because the comic fam is deciding to buy this book now more than they have all year.
Yeah, you almost have to ask yourself, how low do you let this book go before you jump in there? Moving on to number 7, we got a classic, controversial J. Scott Campbell cover with ASM 601.
And this one right here is a great example of how, although there's been an increase in census count, Spidey is a completely different variable to apply to the collectible because there's such a strong fandom that wants key, especially J. Scott Campbell, covers. Take a look at the 8.0 going for $100. That right there is a record-breaking sale. The highest it ever hit was $93 this past May for an increase of 8%. The 8.5, record-breaking sale, $140, where the heights were reached back in May of $130 for an 8% increase. The 9.0 selling for $150 for an increase of 17%. The 9.6, $315 for an increase of 37%.
The 9.8 sold for $589, which is 33% above its 12-month average. And then we have a newsstand 8.0, which sold for $160 for the first time ever.
A lot of collectible comics has seen such a strong increase in census count as it pertains to graded comics that has been unprecedented in the last 5 years, really the last decade. And we see a book like this see 18 more copies graded at a 9.8 in just 4 months. And you would think that the prices would adjust far beyond what they have. But Gem just reported a $589 sale, and the heights were reached back in October of 2021 of $730. We have seen books tank as much as 60 to 80%. Stay tuned, hit the subscribe button, and this one just isn't doing it. Is it the J. Scott Campbell effect? Is it the Spidey effect? Let me know in the comment section below, because it could be both.
Don't forget, J. Scott Campbell's having a private CGC signing with an October 15th deadline, so that's another reason why you might see collectors scurry to get these key issues. Now, if you want to know what other iconic J. Scott Campbell variant covers are out there, you got to download Key Collector.
The best comic app in existence. I use it every single day. If you use code TOM101, you support what we do directly, but you also unlock a free 2-week subscription of the app. I suggest you go check out the artist category section, type in J. Scott Campbell, and see that plethora of comics for you to choose from. It doesn't have to be this expensive comic.
Key Collector is also a good resource to check out those Aquaman villains. Number 6 on the list from 1967, we have Aquaman 35, the first appearance of Black Manta.
Black Manta is being set up as one of the main villains of Aquaman 2, and you may be surprised that there's going to be a sequel, but when you consider that Aquaman 1 was the highest grossing DC film of all time, it had to happen. And I gotta ask, Jem, what'd you think of the trailer? Because I think the graphics look cool. Jason Momoa, he never disappoints.
Yeah, I'm a Jason Momoa fan. The graphics did look good. I enjoyed Aquaman number 1, but I can't help feeling like it's the sequel nobody asked for, but we got it because of how successful the first one was.
But this book is definitely a different situation than any other books on this list, perhaps next to X-Men 1. There are so few copies in existence, mid-grade and above, and they sell so sparingly throughout the year that the prices don't adjust that much. So when we see it rank on the Hot 10, you know that the trailer landed at least well for some investors.
The 3.5 is up 13% from the 12-month average. The 4.5 is up 12%. The 6.5 is up 40% with a sale for $500. The 7.0 sold for $550, which is up 13%. And then the 8.0 sold for $775, basically sticking around average.
Consider this. Another book on the list, Watchmen #1, has over 4,300 copies currently registered on the CGC census, comics encased in that slab. Compared to Aquaman 35, there's under 1,000 copies. And 9.6, which is only 3 copies, we haven't seen hit the market since 2015. 9.8, 1 copy exists, and we haven't seen that since 2007. Hot damn. Next on the list is Wolverine #8, coming out in 1989. We got Logan as Patch, Mr. Fix-It Hulk, a classic cover, and a classic Rob Liefeld cover on the back. This book is perfect for getting slabbed up, and it is more affordable than ever, at least since 2019.
You gotta love those pinups they were doing on the back of those early issues on that initial Wolverine run, but why are people buying this? I can't help but feel like this is the next best thing to Wolverine #1, which may or may not end up on the list later on. But look at the sales. The 7.0 up 6%. The 9.2 is up 8%. The 9.4 just sold for $115, 5% above average. 2 9.6s broke their 12-month average this week, with the highest selling for $160, up 8%.
The newsstand 9.6 is up 16%, and the 9.8, whose heights were reached back in 2021 of $750, is now selling for $350. The book was settling around $300 post the comic boom, and is one that I don't see going below, what, $250, $200? This is too much of a classic book that everyone loves. To see it at $350, it seems like a good buy. and buyers are buying.
It was as low as $150 in 2019, but here we are talking about a $300 book.
And here we are at number 4 talking about Uncanny X-Men 101. What the hell is going on, Jem?
I have no idea what's going on with this book. It's the 5th consecutive week it's made the Hot 10. It made number 7 last week, and there's a ton of sales. The 6.0 selling for $366, up 4%. The 7.0 up 13%. The 7.5 selling for $500, that's up 5%. The 9.0 is also up 5%, and the 9.2 just sold for $900, 4% above average.
I can't help but think that this book may represent the investment in mutant spec that a lot of investors have been waiting on. We know that the mutants are coming in the MCU, but I don't think anyone expected it to take this long. Well, X-Men 101 has really no path to success on the big screen that we can foresee outside of maybe another animation adaptation, but it doesn't matter. It's too classic of a book. Chris Claremont era books are down, and we know they're gonna come back up eventually. This right here is another case of buyers be buying.
Now, this is one of those books that's fared pretty well since the comic boom, where other books have taken hits of 50% or more. It has a record high sale of $9,600 from April of 2022, which looks more like an outlier. The true high looks to be more of about $7,000. And when you consider the last GPA sale from this month, it's not too far behind, coming in at $5,640.
Spoiler alert, Dazzler is not found on this list this week. X-Men 130 makes a lot of sense to spec on. Taylor Swift, X-Men keys, etc. And it's also ranked on the Hot 10 5 times, the same amount of times as X-Men 101, with no spec potential to see.
Unless they do make fun of the Dark Phoenix saga in the upcoming Deadpool 3 movie. And speaking of which, what's this at number 3? New Mutants 98, the first appearance of Deadpool.
In the last 9 months alone, we're seeing an average of over 14 copies graded at a 9.8 of this book sell every single month. You heard me right. Over 125 copies have sold on the internet alone, let alone the convention scene. That's a lot of opportunities to buy, and we've seen 35 copies added to the census in just 1 week, and to boot, 5 of those copies were graded at a 9.8, and we've been talking about this book week over week over week with that census count going up, up, and up. So when we see average pricing starting to level out and an increase in sales, it's because members are realizing the book isn't going to go down that much more.
The CGC 9.2 selling for $500, that's 29% above average. 2 copies sold for the 9.8 average, right around $1,500. And then we have a newsstand 9.8 that sold for $3,050, 7% above average.
Good news, writer's strike is coming to an end, but the actor strike is still going on. Deadpool 3 is already written, but they still need to finish filming. It's going to be some time till we see Deadpool 3, and I think we're going to see a lot more sales happening, but I don't see the prices dipping by that much. Next on the list at number 2 is Star Wars Heir to the Empire number 1, first appearance of Grand Admiral Thrawn, and wow, has this book not recovered.
You knew this book was going to hit the list. We finally saw Grand Admiral Thrawn show up in live action in Ahsoka, although not doing much yet, but we still have a long ways to go, causing more interest in this book. A CGC 7.5 selling for about average, $102. The 8.0 selling for $180, 58% above average.
The 9.0, in which 2 copies outsold the 12-month average, is selling for $155 for an increase of 12%. The 9.6 is selling for $350. That's an increase of 4%. And the newsstand 9.6 sold for $686. That's an increase of 15%. 9.8s hit heights of $2,300. And prior to the Ahsoka tease, pre-2020, this is a $200 book at best at a 9.8. So seeing it go from $200 to $2,300 during the comic boom shows that a lot of members were banking on this to be a huge splash in the Star Wars mythos. Well, as of late, and countless additions to the CGC census, we're seeing a decrease since the show debuted the character of $50, selling for $676 at a 9.8.
Yeah, I see a sea of red on GPA, so it's not looking too good now, but, he showed up. Let's see what Grand Admiral Thrawn does in live action as we move on to the hottest comic book in the world.
Hit the like and subscribe because we still have to go over Q3 numbers. We have at the list of number 1, to no surprise, Wolverine number 1, Frank Miller, first solo Wolverine title.
All I know is, for whatever reason, the community has championed this book as one of the Deadpool 3 keys, and with the Writers Guild coming to an agreement, with the strike potentially being over by the time you see this. It's only a matter of time before we get the actor strike resolved and get this movie out in theaters. We have a CGC 8.5 newsstand that sold for $150, 12% above average. The 9.0 direct edition selling for $175, 17% up. The newsstand 9.2 had 2 copies outsell the average, the highest going for $250, which is 38% above.
The 9.4 sold for $261 this past week for an increase of 38%. 496 copies outsold the 12-month average, with the highest being $366 for an increase of 36%. And 3 copies outsold at a 9.8, the 12-month average, the highest being $780 for an increase of 14%. Jem, do you remember when I told the fam that when this book was hitting $600, it seemed too low?
I couldn't even get Rob from Red Hood Comics to sell it to me for under $650.
We have the data. We have the documents. The Q3 number, Q3 books have been compiled, the information extracted for the comic fam. The last 90 days, these next 10 books are the hottest comic books in the world, the comics being invested in 2023.
Number 10, we have House of Secrets 92. The first appearance of Swamp Thing has made the list 3 times during this quarter. It came in at number 9, number 8, and number 6, respectively.
Writer's strike being over means James Gunn can pick it back up. I suspect to see Swamp Thing on the list very soon because we're going to be getting updates about next year very shortly. And taking a look at number 9, same to be said about Green Lantern 59, first appearance of Guy Gardner, ranking at 9th place 4 different times this past 3 months, 8, 7, 6, and 5th place.
Coming in at number 8, this book made the list 5 times this year, although it never cracked past number 6. It's Iron Man number 1, the first solo self-titled series.
Uncanny X-Men 101 is at number 7 with 5 different appearances on the Hot 10 in the last 90 days. And this book did crack halfway through the list, but the heights it reached was number 4, and we still don't know why.
Coming in at number 6, we have Uncanny X-Men 130, the first appearance of Dazzler. Although she only had 5 appearances as well, only one of them was number 2, and all the rest she made that number 1 spot.
What an accomplishment. And at the list at number 5, we don't have Heir to the Empire number 1. We don't have Clone Wars number 1. We have Star Wars number 1. Seeing 6 different appearances on our Hot 10 in the last 90 days and ranking all the way up to a height of 3rd place twice.
Moving on to number 4, one of my favorite books, Spider-Man 2099, issue number 1, the first full appearance of Spider-Man that's not a 5-page preview that has been previously published in another comic book. Who would have thought that an animated movie would have had this much of an impact on the comic book market? But here it is, 6 appearances, ranking all the way from 8th place to number 1.
I felt that jab, Jem, but we got to talk about Miles Morales. Ranking at the list at number 3, 7 different appearances on the Hot 10. And you're right, the animation film, I don't think anyone would have suspected so much investment dollars going into keys that were associated with it. In fact, if there was an 11th spot on this Hot 10 list, we would have put a Spidey book there.
Number 2 on the list should come as no surprise. It's New Mutants 98, the first appearance of Deadpool. It's been on the list 11 times, and it's never ranked under number 5, coming in at number 1 twice and number 2 4 times.
If it wasn't Deadpool, you know what it was going to be at number 1. Wolverine number 1, the book that landed on the Hot 10 this very week, but even if it didn't, it still would have ranked in the number 1 spot because every week, consecutive, the entire quarter, Wolverine 1 has landed on the Hot 10 from as low as 7th place to heights of 1st place on 3 different occasions. Hit the like, slap the subscribe, and as always,
Geek responsibly and stay minty fresh.
Enough said.